Stay tuned.
Activities that we have undertaken. We will now commence with the remarks by the chairman of the Presidential Task Force, SGF, sir.
Well, let me take this opportunity to wish you all Barka da Sallah. I was expecting my house to be filled up with some chicken running all over the place, but I told you I didn't see any. Oh, they are on their way coming. Oh, okay, very well. But I believe you had a very restful time of celebration, which is in the spirit of our new norm. Members of the Presidential Task Force, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen of the press, I welcome you to the national briefing by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 for Wednesday, 27th May 2020. The Presidential Task Force wishes to congratulate all our Muslim brothers and sisters for a very successful Eid celebration. The way this year's Eid was celebrated further reminds us that we are living in unusual times occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic, thus bringing out the need to strengthen our resolve to change our behavior and get attuned to new ways of life, because what we used to know as normal has been permanently changed. The Presidential Task Force observed activities nationwide, and reports received were mixed. We, however, remain committed to the pursuit of strategies that would promote our well-being and channel resources towards efforts that would guarantee we overcome this pandemic while limiting its negative effects on our individual and collective survival. Today, the 27th May 2020, is also Children's Day worldwide, and this brings to mind the need to build a legacy that will guarantee a safe and secure future for our children. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the nation was faced with the challenge of out-of-school children, estimating about 12 million. This has now been compounded by the compelling need for closure of schools as part of the measures to limit the spread of the virus. The Presidential Task Force has been deliberating on this situation. I wish to inform Nigerians that the Federal Ministry of Education will roll out measures to be put in place for safe reopening of our schools. The Honorable Minister of Education State will be elaborating on the subject this afternoon going forward. He will also clarify the purported announcement of resumption date, which went viral last week. The Presidential Task Force wishes to use the occasion of this celebration to congratulate our children and assure them, their parents, and all stakeholders alike that all hands are on deck to reopen the schools at a safe time. We therefore use this medium to urge states, local governments, proprietors, and other stakeholders to begin to take steps that will facilitate an early and safe reopening. The subject of research has been central to the mandate, thinking, and planning of the Presidential Task Force. Studies have shown that countries in Africa are so far experiencing a low rate of transmission, fewer severe cases, and fewer deaths than that predicted in previous estimates. A recent publication by the World Health Organization on risk modeling for 47 countries in Africa region predicts 82,000 to 190,000 deaths during the first year of the pandemic. However, African countries need to take measures to respond to this worst-case situation while also ensuring continuation of existing services would certainly stretch our already burdened health systems. Countries in the region need to progressively increase their capacity to detect cases, not just to know the extent of the outbreak, but also to identify and initiate care for people most at risk. They also need to expand capacity to mitigate the implications of widespread community transmission of COVID-19. Above all, more research to determine the underlying factors for the current trend in the pandemic in Africa is needed. In addition to pursuing the line of thought, the occurrences in Kano and some other cities have given us cause to launch our research initiatives using existing structures and systems in a manner that will build a legacy and also prepare Nigeria for any future pandemic. The Presidential Task Force is happy to note that the Central Bank of Nigeria has indicated a willingness to support research efforts. This is therefore a call on all our researchers and scientists to take up the challenge. As a measure of the importance attached to research and development of local capacity for finding a cure for COVID-19, the Federal Minister of Health held a virtual meeting with a number of researchers and scientists with claims to cure of COVID-19. And out of the numerous claimants, 3 were found to deserve further investigation and have been forwarded to the relevant authorities for appropriate review. Similarly, efforts are being made by the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology to subject a good number of locally manufactured COVID-19 equipment to verification and subsequent certification. In our briefing of Thursday, 21st May 2020, the Presidential Task Force categorically advised Nigerians against self-medication in treating COVID-19. Particularly, the use of hydroxychloroquine was discouraged because it had not been certified for use in treating COVID-19. We have read in the media about the side effects of the use of this drug from COVID-19 patients that survived, as well as those who took it outside clinical supervision. The World Health Organization has temporarily suspended all clinical trials of hydroxychloroquine as a potential treatment for COVID-19. This advice was informed by a study which identified that the use of the hydroxychloroquine, either alone or with other drugs, has been responsible for a high number of deaths. This precautionary measure by the World Health Organization underscores the importance of not only seeking expert medical advice, but also ensuring that all claims to treatment by scientists and researchers, whether conventional or traditional, should be subjected to scientific certification protocols by NAFDAC and other relevant institutions so as to guarantee the efficacy of the discovery. In some of our previous briefings, the Presidential Task Force hinted about the strengthening of community engagement in the control of COVID-19. I am pleased to inform you that a protocol has been developed and it gives community members greater involvement and ownership in identifying and supporting the case management process. The details will be unfolded in the coming days. As we progress into the closing days of the extension of the eased lockdown phase 1, I wish to assure all Nigerians that the Muhammad Buhari administration feels the economic pains they are passing through, and it is for this reason that beyond the number of stimulus packages, especially for citizens that rely on daily subsistence, the gradual reopening up of the economy is also a strategy in preparing for a post-COVID-19 economy. To achieve this objective, the Presidential Task Force has continued to brief the National Economic Council and the Nigerian Governors Forum. It has also collaborated with the Economic Sustainability Committee, the Economic Impact Committee, and the Committee on Free Movement of Agricultural and Allied Produce. The Presidential Task Force also continues to interact with the private sector, religious and traditional rulers in pursuit of a robust national response. I will now have the privilege to call on the Honorable Minister of State for Health, the DG, Nigerian Center for Disease Control, and the National Coordinator to update you on the state of affairs. I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, the Chairman of the Presidential Task Force, my colleagues in the team, media representatives here present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I shall begin this briefing by congratulating our Muslim brothers and sisters for a successful Salah celebration. And in that regard, I would like to say that may God accept our supplications. And particularly at this point in time, that God will heal our land and grant us peace. I thought I would hear amen. Thank you very much. I note with gladness the substantial adherence to the advisories we gave, even during the celebration in most states. The increasing awareness of the disease, and especially the adoption of preventive measures, such as the use of face masks in public places during the celebration. We shall continue to engage our traditional and religious leaders to mobilize support for community mobilization and sensitization. Permit me to equally rejoice and celebrate children of the world, and particularly the Nigerian children, as they mark Children's Day. In spite of the low-key celebration, it does not diminish the importance of children in our world. We will continue to focus on child rights and the survival of the child. Happy Children's Day. As you all know, our response strategy is based on trace, test, isolate, and treat. Today, I shall focus on our isolation and treatment strategies. As at this morning, we have recorded a total of 8,344 confirmed cases in 34 states and FCT, out of which 2,385 have been successfully treated and discharged. Unfortunately, we have recorded 249 deaths. While most of those who died had associated comorbidities, we find that 3 out of 4 of those who have been discharged were without comorbidities. This is consistent with the fact that risks are higher for those with other illnesses, such as hypertension, diabetes, and other chronic non-communicable diseases. There is a general reduction in mortality trend and continuous improvement in recoveries, as shown in discharges compared to the increase in the number of confirmed cases. Though not surprising, we are concerned about the increasing number of confirmed cases